What's good, cannabis investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from May 13th to the 19th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And if you want to learn more about this investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. Then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the U.S. cannabis industry, identify top U.S. MSOs that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps and new markets turning on and going legal for adult use, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. But yet another domino has fallen. The proposed rescheduling rule that we've been patiently waiting for was apparently added to the Federal Register as of May 17th midday, though unpublished, and the plan is to publish it on the 21st of May, which is next Tuesday, so that the comment period goes into effect and lasts until the 20th of July 2024. The proposed rule document from the DEA mentions the 60-day comment period will begin after date of official publication in the Register. So more here if you wanted to check that out, but I do have links for everything. Loved seeing this from the Office of Public Affairs and the DOJ. Justice Department submits proposed regulation to reschedule cannabis. Thursday, May 26th. Proposed rule seeks to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, emphasizing its currently accepted medical use in treatment in the U.S. So you love to see it. So pause to read for more of a breakdown of how we got to Thursday and all the steps involved and why it took so damn long, especially when the Dems waited 3.5 years to get this ball rolling finally. And all the links will be in the comments, but for anyone interested, the newly published OLC opinion. Conclusion, pause to read if you're interested. I've not been able to go through these docs, though I do plan to skim through some of the main points of them, including the conclusions, though just sharing what we have here. So this is the official link from justice.gov, 36 pages, questions related to the potential rescheduling of cannabis. So this is the Office of Legal Counsel from the DOJ's opinion on it, while this is the notice of proposed rulemaking, which also came from the DOJ, which is another big thing that we got this past. And ironically enough, it was only last week Kevin Sabet was running his mouth saying that if the DEA head and Milgram doesn't sign off on a certain piece of paper, then none of this is going to happen. And then Prices reacted as if he was telling the truth, maybe because he had actually called the two dominoes before, but no one should have believed him because who ended up signing it in the long run? Her boss, Merrick Garland, Attorney General of the DOJ. And so, suck on that, Kevin Sabet and Luke Nelly Furtado, you fucking coward frauds. Must suck when the government actually follows the signs for once and you guys are heading in the complete opposite direction. But with that, thank you, WeedStreet420, for sharing this summary that Pablo Zuanic put together, and we'll get to this doc in a moment if you're interested. But basically, this is the potential timeline going forward based on these two docs that we recently got, the OLC opinion and the notice of proposed rulemaking. And so take this timeline with a grain of salt, as it's likely the best case scenario, and that's typically never how governments work. And if it isn't obvious to you by now, clearly the powers that be wanted to set the stage for this election. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting the idea that we're going to get another 2020 into 2021 run, but 5, possibly 10 times bigger based on how much further along MSOs are now, plus the fact they're going to be posting profits and cash flow post-280E removal. And another crazy stat is that 30 days after July 20th, when the comment period is supposed to end, is August 19th, which is also the day of the Democratic Convention. So tell me this ain't scripted. Link in the comments if you want to go through any of it. And this is the actual report. 14 pages diving deep into everything. So definitely worth checking out. Grab the link in the comments on the OLC's opinion and then the notice of proposed rulemaking. But we love to see this first sentence, implementation of rescheduling and the DOJ issuing a Cole Memo 2 before the election are now even more likely, as one domino is the catalyst for the next few dominoes to come out, being the catalyst for the next few dominoes. We were just hella early. Again, wild. And then from Do the Right Thing, what a beautiful sentence. So get this from the notice of proposed rulemaking. DOJ has concluded that this action may have a significant economic impact on a substantial number of small entities. That sounds like it's confirming our investment thesis for us. We've been right all along. And then, if cannabis is ultimately transferred to Schedule 3, Section 280E would no longer serve as a statutory bar to claiming deductions for those expenses. You love to see it. I typically try not to share Nat's Fertig too much because I find her insufferable. She was one of the first sources, obviously, to break the news on Thursday because she just gets told what to write and then she writes it. But this was May 16th, the morning of Scoop. The DOJ plans to issue notice of proposed rulemaking, yada, yada, yada. Now, I believe this Ashley Southall is a New York Times reporter, and she actually mentioned signaling a process that won't drag out as long as some might expect. This, for some reason, could lead us to believe that it would go faster than Pablo's possible timeline. Of course, let's not get our hopes up. It likely won't, but just wanted to share this as, imagine we get a curveball out of left field, let's say a Cole Memo 2 that speeds up the process. That would be amazing. Of course, we could obviously wish for the best. And it is wild that we literally got a video from the president and VP on that day. They're leaning into this, which we've been waiting 3.5 years for them to do. So just finally nice to feel vindicated. And so with that, Jeffries on US Cannabis. Thanks, Todd, for sharing this. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but these investment firms know a lot more than I do. OLC memo could prove to be very important. Likely to see this finalized before November election, could lead to much greater institutional ownership, and that's what we're talking about. So you can pause to read, but I feel very lucky being retail this time around, and while maybe our timing was off, there's that quote from Charlie Munger saying the big money is not in the buying, it's in the waiting. I don't know if I got that quote right, but I know the second part is that it's in the waiting. It's being patient and trusting the thesis that the government has just confirmed for us. And so with that, thanks, Todd, for sharing Bloomberg intelligence on cannabis. The possible DEA reclassification of cannabis to Schedule 3 would end the applicability of 280E on the MSOs, cutting the tax liability among the 5 largest by around $500 million. We've seen $700 million in other reports. And so this is, again, from BBG Intelligence. Pause to read if you're interested, and let me know in the comments, folks, what you guys think about any of the news stories if you wanted to share. Love to hear what you're thinking. And with that, from Don Murphy, just wanted to share our favorite DC source. To my GOP friends, don't be idiots. Take this issue and run with it like the Dems. Turn the heat up, baby, because nothing screams American and freedom like being able to smoke a joint in peace without fear of going to jail, obviously. And just the fact that any GOP or any politician or anyone in a position of power can be against ending prohibition when the data is so clearly positive, ultimately, it just highlights how we should be able to remove people from power when we can expose them clearly not working in favor of their constituents and just being corporate mouthpieces until they can no longer function and freeze like Mitch. And so with that, wanted to hear from Boris. Cannabis reclassification is a real milestone for the industry, says Curaleaf Sports Jordan. So as always, take his words with a grain of salt, but he has been right on certain things, like Germany finally keeping their word and actually getting that done this year. Although, you know, it was late because the politicians kicked the can down the road, not Boris.
Curaleaf's co-founder and chairman, Boris Jordan, whom we've checked in on, Boris, several times on this legal journey. How significant is this one in the chapters we've already seen?
I think, Carlos, it's very important for the industry and a real milestone, because 50 years ago, the U.S. last reviewed cannabis for rescheduling from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. For political reasons, it didn't happen at the time. This time, the government seems to be taking a much more serious approach to it based on science. And I think this decision to move forward with this is really important for two reasons. The first is that it will allow for research, very much needed medical research on this plant and the various cannabinoids in this plant to take place. And its government-funded research can happen under Schedule 3. And also, it relieves the industry from the capricious and unconstitutional 280E tax, which has been burdening the industry very, very much over the last 10 years. And so these two things are very positive developments that will come about on the back of this rescheduling.
Great point.
Right. That latter part, I remember a piece in Politico a couple of months ago about the federal tax code, which at this point prohibits a lot of companies in the space from, say, writing off business expenses, makes it more difficult to turn a profit. We would see that ostensibly in the bottom line?
Yes, so the real effect of this is that basically the industry pays approximately a 70 to 75% tax, if I can summarize it that way, versus other companies in the United States that pay a 21 to 22% tax. So it has been a very, very profound effect on the industry. For Curaleaf, just to put things into perspective, relieving or rescinding this tax will contribute $150 to $200 million day one to the bottom line of the business based on this year's projected revenues.
Wow, that's a remarkable figure there. And those taxations is also part of the contribution to a black market as well, right? And so if this rescheduling decision does go through, ultimately, I know there's a comment period and some other things that need to take place, what would that do for the black market? Would it be a boon to you to see some of that black market business go back into the legal sector?
I think it would help our industry very much, but I also think it helps the safety market for the industry, right? Consumers today are buying black market products because they're cheaper due to this capricious tax that we pay. We will be able to bring down prices, forcing consumer to go to the regulated market where products are safe and tested. And I think this is the most important thing. Consumer will be better off, safer, at a better price with this tax being relieved. And also, social equity licenses, small entrepreneurs that can't operate basically in this industry.
Tell all those social justice warriors, 280E goes away for everybody. Not just MSOs. Like, how can they be so blind and dumb, right?
Due to this tax, will also be able to prosper, and that's really important for the industry.
Boris, assuming that is, the rules of the road going ahead, how do you see the industry developing in terms of how fully penetrated it is between black market and legal product, and are you just talking about trying to grab market share among what's already out there in the business? I've been trying to figure this out for a while.
These analysts are idiots. I get that impression.
Well, the U.S. industry is estimated to be approximately, the total industry, about $100+ billion. The legal industry today is around $30 billion.
This guy has no idea how much market share there is to take up.
So you have $70 billion that's in the illicit market today that will most likely start to move much quicker into the legal regulated market, therefore giving regulated players much more strength to operate and much better financial health, which I think will then lead to consolidation industry, but it will also lead to a lot more entrepreneurship in the industry, which will allow new businesses, craft growers, craft companies to start to develop, because they'll be able to write off their expenses and not have to pay this very exorbitant high tax.
It's ultimately more opportunity, not less. And who wouldn't want that, right? Unless you're actively trying to make the lives of people around you worse. And I can think of two types of people that like to do that: politicians and Marxists. And we need less and less of those around. But on to studies, folks, highlighting why this plant could be a miracle medicine. And research is certainly better than the status quo, where it never belonged in the first place. From BMC, as of May 16th, Cannabis and Cancer, unveiling the potential of a green ally in breast, colorectal, and prostate cancer. And so we've got a lot of studies here. I'm not going to read through all of them. I invite you to pause to read as I bring you to the abstract, and I'll highlight a few things worth noting. But mainly, finally, studies demonstrated that PC cells highly express CB1 and CB2 receptors, and that cannabinoids are capable of inhibiting the release of exosomes and microvessels related to cancer progression. Cannabinoids also have anti-proliferative, anti-invasive, anti-fibroblastic, cell cycle arrest, and pro-apoptic effects on PC cells, which are prostate cancer cells. Sounds very promising, right? So I invite you to pause to read. Links are in the comments, but we've got a lot more where that came from too. From Science Direct, as of May 15th, 2024, cannabidiol ameliorates PTSD-like symptoms by inhibiting neuroinflammation through its action on CB2 receptors in the brain of male mice. And so, hey, why don't we study this in humans? Because cannabis has never killed anyone and it's not toxic or a poison. So just dumb. But hey, this is promising that we found this in mice. I'm sure we would find this in humans too. Nonetheless, abstract here if you wanted to pause to read. And to highlight, I'll bring you down to the bottom. The present study offers innovative experimental evidence supporting the utilization of CBD in PTSD treatment from the perspective of its regulation of neuroinflammation, and paves the way for leveraging the endocannabinoid system to regulate neuroinflammation as a potential therapeutic approach for psychiatric disorders. Because mice and humans do have an endocannabinoid system. So I guess that make more sense, but you might as well just do it on humans at this point, right? While from Forbes, new study finds weight loss with THCV and CBD. Fascinating. Skip Ozempic when you can just use the plant. A recent study found that taking THCV and CBD infused oral strips helped people in the early phases of metabolic syndrome lose weight and improve metabolic markers. Fascinating. And so this is the actual study. I'll put the link to the Forbes article in the comments as well, but if you wanted to pause to read conclusions, the 16 milligram to 20 milligram daily dose was superior for weight loss compared to a smaller dose of 8 milligram to 10 milligram daily. Both sets of results differed from placebo in a way that was statistically significant. That is fascinating. So I invite you to grab the entire report if you're interested. But hey, cannabis and weight loss. Who would have fucking known? Actually, I mean, I would have suspected that. I know many people that lost weight over time and got healthier and look much better now since they started actually using cannabis productively and in moderation too. While from Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association, cannabis-related hospital emergency department visits among pediatric patients declined in the final 6 months of 2023. Take that, Sam. They like to talk about hospital poisonings and cannabis poisonings, when again, you can't say cannabis poison because cannabis isn't toxic. It's an oxymoron, highlighting how big of a fucking moron these fraudsters from Sam are. But data from Virginia hospitals show a 21.5% decline in cannabis-related pediatric emergency department visits between the first half of 2023 and second half of the year, which is fascinating, as Virginia did decriminalize cannabis, though they've not launched a legal commercial market. So cannabis is no longer illegal there. You're not going to get arrested for having it, which is obviously a great win for humanity. But also love to see that since legalization took place, This has gone down, which basically shuts up all the prohibitionists too. Another one of their talking points, muffled. We love it. And so from Cambridge University Press, Medical Cannabis Laws and Mental Health in the United States, published April 2nd, 2024. Pause to read the abstract. As always, links will be in the comments for all these studies, but we find that eased access to cannabis through medical cannabis laws reduced the reported number of days with poor mental health for individuals with a high propensity to consume cannabis for medical purposes, and for those individuals who likely suffer from frequent pain, because cannabis is a medicine. Love this coming from Cambridge, out of the UK as well. More in the comments if you wanted to go through that whole thing. Well, from Scientific American, May 15th, a citrus-scented cannabis compound reduces anxiety for weed users. All of the things we find when we actually get to study the plant, right? New research into weed reveals how a lemon-scented terpene can ease anxiety without reducing the high. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I invite you to pause to read or grab the link if you are interested. Scroll down for a little bit more. Well, this one from Springer Link, evaluating possible next day impairment in insomnia patients administered an oral medical cannabis product by night. A pilot randomized control trial published May 17th, yesterday, 2024. Abstract, there's a lot here. I invite you to pause to read. Last bit, in conclusion, we found a lack of notable next day impairment. That's promising. No hangover to cognitive and psychomotor function and simulated driving performance, booyah, following evening use of 10 milligram oral THC in combination with 200 milligram CBD in an insomnia population who infrequently use cannabis. So what do you know? Cannabis seemed to help them sleep, and then it did not give them any sort of lingering effects the next day. Seems consistent with a lot of the other data. Full link in the comments if you want to go through that. While from MDPI, drug cannabinoid interactions in selected therapeutics for symptoms associated with epilepsy, autism spectrum disorder, cancer, multiple sclerosis, and pain. How is this in the Schedule 1? That is fucking criminal that the government's allowed it to be there for so long. Published May 10th, 2024. Abstract, lots here. I invite you to pause to read. Although further studies are still pending, there is currently clinical evidence supporting drug interactions with cannabinoids requiring doctors to evaluate the risk of drug combinations with cannabinoids and vice versa. And doctors are hesitant because they don't get incentivized as well as the big pharma pill companies. But fortunately, some doctors and the smart ones are coming around because they know they're on the right side of history. While the tables provided here were designed to facilitate the identification of biorelevant interactions that may compromise therapeutic efficacy and toxicity. Basically highlighting that cannabis can be used well with other medicines also, and that this is being explored more. And so full link in the comments for that one. A few more. MedRxiv, impact of year-long cannabis use for medical symptoms on brain activation during cognitive processes. As of May 1st, 2024. And I'll bring you down. I invite you to pause the abstract all the way down to results, but then I'm going to scroll a little bit more just to get you to the conclusion. Findings suggest that adults do not show significant neural effects in the areas of cognition of working memory, reward, and inhibitory control after 1 year of cannabis use for medical symptoms. So after 1 year of continued use, we do not see any significant effects on working memory, reward, and inhibitory control. Booyah. And these results warrant further studies that probe effects of cannabis at higher doses, with greater frequency, in younger age groups, and with larger, more diverse cohorts. Agreed. Isn't this what we all want? More studying? We're getting closer, but the only thing in the way really is the politicians. Man! And SciPost, last one, folks, from May 13th, cannabis compounds' neuroprotective properties revealed could be key to treating Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And so, not going to spend too much time on this, but it looks like cannabinol, one of the new lesser-known compounds, may hold promise for treating neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And so, this was detailed in this journal, which I will pop open and put in the comments. Then we're going to move along to state news. And so, this one is also from Science Direct. From the future, June 2024, baby. Love to see that, actually. So I'll let you pause here if you're interested. Otherwise, links will be in the comments. But with that, from Public News Service out of Ohio, as we move on to state news, love that Ohio gears up for legal cannabis sales to start next month in June. So I believe sales are anticipated to start mid-June. I don't know if the day's official yet, but basically June 7th to have the applications ready, September 7th to start issuing permits. And then the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review approved the rules without objection, enabling a dual licensing program for existing medical cannabis dispensaries. And so this will include MSOs or any mom and pop shops in Ohio to also sell adult use out of their existing med shops first. And so think of everyone's ready for June 7th to get the apps in. From June 7th to at some point later in the month, the flip is going to switch. They're going to get the apps and they're going to be approved. So keep that in mind. Well, this is the new legislation that becomes law for everyone in Ohio as well. I believe that's already in effect. Well, from Green Market Report, same story, basically how companies are spending millions in Ohio to prepare. And the launch will be in the back half of June. So not determined, I believe, yet. But after the applications are in and approved, that's when it's going to happen. So there's a lot more in this story, actually. So I invite you to pause to read. while I'll bring you down to another section of it, reaching a milestone, talking about numbers and how big the Ohio market's going to get. And we know it's going to get big, hence why we're excited. And then a little bit more down here from a whole new market. And let's hope they, ease off the regulations and see success similar to Missouri and Maryland, because we need another one of those. We don't need another New York shit show. And on that topic from Joe Rossi, a great interview last night on Capitol Tonight with OGS Commissioner Moy. Basically, this is an update on what the New York industry can expect going forward. And so just going to play this.
Sorry, we're disconnected briefly, but we'll change it to OCM. So one of our top recommendations are making sure that we have better transparency in the process. Applicants need to know where they are in the queue. We need to make sure that there is greater transparency. One of the most frustrating things that we heard time and time again was I have no idea where I am in the process. I sent in paperwork. I haven't gotten an email response. Emails are going to what they feel like a black box, right? There are no phone numbers we can call to speak to a particular individual.
So customer service needs to improve.
Customer service 100%.
Because the OCM hates people. They hate humans. And that's why they act the way they act and why they ruin the fucking industry. They got to treat people like New Yorkers, like humans.
And if you look at some of the frustrations and you hear the frustrations that we have, where am I in the process? We need to provide better clarity. If you're looking to get and open up a business in your community, you want to have better predictability, particularly those that are small business owners that are looking to open up their small business. You're investing money and time here in the state of New York. Maybe you put aside funds for rent. Maybe you're looking to build out a space. Maybe you want to hire staff. If we cannot provide better clarity into where you are in the process, will it take 6 months? Will it take 2 weeks? We just need to provide better clarity. We need to make sure that you have someone you can call in order to get information.
And OCM had, $26 million they hoarded and didn't spend that they could have used to do their job and help people get ready?
Coming weeks, that's what we're going to be looking to do. We've looked to add additional staff into the operation, add whether it's temps, whether they're individuals on loan from other agencies, and also full-time hires that we prioritize very early in the process. So we need to make sure that we ramp up that work and provide some clarity. We also need to look at the communications of what we are telling individuals that are applying into the process. So that means looking at every step, the time in which you submit that application, it's the time in which you're looking for that license to be issued, that you're able to get clear, precise information about where you are in the process. It absolutely needs to happen. That will be the focus over the next few weeks and coming months, is to make sure that is properly aligned and that we've worked through all the individuals who are waiting for responses.
All right, so it sounds, Commissioner, like you are going...
Yeah, that all sounds great, but if you fire all the idiots in charge, it doesn't matter, right? That's what we've learned after all this time. Well, apparently social equity cannabis businesses sold a bag of dreams, and I had to share this article, Commonwealth Beacon, basically just highlighting how every state that goes social equity really focuses on that because of the social justice aspect essentially gets exposed for being the Marxist and the socialist they are, selling the opportunity and then not actually meeting the expectations. So this is out of Massachusetts, not New York, but I'm sure it's similar in every state that focus so much on it, because that's ultimately the root of it. It's equity is making everyone poor. It's not helping. And glad it's finally getting exposed. Well, love to see this out of Michigan, as adult use cannabis sales are up 21% from last year already, just 4 months into 2024. They're the nation's second largest market, reported nearly $1.1 billion in sales for 4 months. That is wild. So happy to share this. I invite you to pause to read this bit, and then I'll scroll down a little bit as well to check out the numbers. But love to see Michigan absolutely crushing it like that. And then also I tried to pull up, actually I'll scroll down a little bit more if you're interested, and then you can grab the link in the comments. I tried to get the Illinois sales data up for you for April. They have not published it yet. Once this is updated in May, probably going to happen next Monday or Tuesday, then we'll be able to see April sales numbers. So if you're watching this next week, you can probably grab the link in the comments. Otherwise, I will feature this in my next week's video. But on to MSO news. I have to touch on these a little bit, as Cresco Labs reports continued trend of financial improvement with first quarter 2024 financial results. And so the fact they haven't seen revenue growth because new markets really haven't turned on that they focused on. Love to see 10x year over year increase in operating cash flow, mainly going from, I think, 3 million to 36 or something like that. And so I invite you to pause to read for the first quarter 2024 highlights. It was 36 million in operating cash flow, up 1,000% year over year, 33 million in free cash flow. Q1, love to see that. So not seeing top line revenue growth, but seeing them cut costs and produce more cash from their operations while retaining number one market share in very important markets. Of course, PA is not adult use yet. Ohio is going to turn on very soon. And then Florida also is going to be a banger for them. But with that, thank you, Canna Investments, for the breakdown for us layman folks as we learn the finance lingo. Efficiency improvements and good cost controls continued into Q1 for Cresco. Despite little top-line growth over the past 3 years, Cresco has optimized the footprint to improve margins and enhance cash flow, with Ohio rec sales in June offering opportunity to return to growth. Plus Florida at some point. So lots to look forward to, I think, and that makes me a happier bag holder than I've been. While Air Wellness reports first quarter 2024 results, Q1 revenue up 3% quarter over quarter to 118 million, excluding discontinued operations. Certainly thought that might be up a little bit higher, but my favorite thing to see out of here is that their operating loss has gone down significantly each quarter and is sitting at just negative $2 million here. And they're keeping, a little bit more gross profit each time. And so I still think once Florida turns on, and the fact that, 90% of Air Wellness's dispensaries are in a state where it's still medical only and not adult use. So man, once that turns on, that is going to be huge. And I do believe they benefit from Ohio. Yeah, they definitely benefit from Ohio. And so with that, from Canna Investments, main thing is that he didn't write the Air one up yet. And so once I get the Air breakdown, similar to Cresco Labs for Air, I will post those in the comments too. Also, thank you, Canna Investments, for sharing this. Looks like GTI grows just or is about to open store number 8 in Minnesota. And so this is a site that shows you all of the Green Thumb Rise dispensaries in the state. Keep in mind, medical only as of right now, but adult use sales are projected to start March 2025. So that will be a nice boon for Green Thumb and for Goodness Growth, I would imagine. Well, from Time.com, this is going to be a hard sell, right? You legalize cannabis and then you get a new president and then they decide that all the benefits aren't worth it. Very good luck. Thailand's cannabis recriminalization risks street protests and industry lawsuits. No shit. It's obviously beneficial in a lot of ways, not just the cannabis industries, but all the other industries that it seeps through. And so we'll see how this plays out, but it's a complete recriminalization order from this monster, Prime Minister Shreta Thavisin. I wonder what the influence is now behind him, to swing the pendulum so far the other way when the other guy was able to get it legalized. Just curious what goes on in the background. Well, from Political Pro, House NDAA removes cannabis from armed services drug testing requirements. Thanks, Nat Fertig. Definitely a big step in the right direction, especially for those in the armed services that, want to enjoy any of their own personal freedoms that they should and deserve to enjoy. While from the Dank Informer, thank you for sharing this one, man, is the Whitney Economics 2023 report on the hemp cannabinoid market. And so this is different from the legal adult use cannabis market. Estimated that the hemp-derived cannabinoid industry did about $28.4 billion in 2022 sales. And that number is greater than the total 2022 medical and adult use cannabis sales in the entire U.S. combined. Pretty mind-blowing stat. Obviously, we don't know what we don't know, and so we love to learn more to enhance our horizons and learn more perspectives so that we can know more. But this is a long post, actually. I didn't end up reading through this whole thing. Just thought I would share it because it's interesting and it's certainly cannabis related. So this post plus the link to the Whitney Economics report will be in the comments. While I shared this, I don't know how related it is to cannabis at all. I'm more speculating. But from the Hill, big lobbying groups spend $4 million on the Farm Bill report. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same Farm Bill that basically allowed synthetic THC to become legal and sold in gas stations across the country because of whatever loophole was done in the Farm Bill. Now, imagine some of this lobbying money went into allowing that, and, the same people that lobbied are the same ones benefiting from that whole industry popping up. If this is that same industry, hemp-derived cannabinoid, right? So I'm trying to connect the dots here and how Mitch possibly created an opportunity for certain people to get fucking possibly rich and loaded off of this synthetic cannabis, and might make more sense why Mitch continues to stand in the way of adult use real cannabis. So I don't know. Again, I'm speculating, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm getting at, or if you know more, please let me know in the comments, because it seems like a lot of money. And again, this Farm Bill certainly created a loophole that did not help the adult use industry whatsoever. No legal industries were helped by this, let me tell you. And so with this, found a podcast from Sammy J talking about some of the market manipulation. Now, again, not something I know much about, and I haven't tuned into this yet. It's a very old podcast, actually, now that I'm seeing this, from 2015, December 2nd, exposing the cheats on Wall Street with HFT whistleblower. So tune into this if you're interested in learning about this. I didn't realize how old this was now that it's nearly 9 years old. But if you don't believe that there can be manipulation on Wall Street, I would recommend tuning in, because Sammy J has been a trusted source that has been highlighting sort of what goes on the over-the-counter markets in the US and Canada and what he sees in the algorithms. And he has a background in finance from my understanding. But hey, if you want to learn how it can be done, seems like based on the tweet that he shared, this is an educational podcast for you. Well, last few ones, folks, to highlight. As today, the DOJ did announce cannabis rescheduling is official, or it's going to be officially published next Tuesday, and this was as of May 16th. And at the same time, there was apparently 1.2 billion of shorts in the sector. And while we'd love for them all to burn, that didn't end up happening on Thursday and Friday. And so why is that the case? I don't know. Am I concerned? Not really. It will happen when it happens. It's out of our control. So try not to get too worked up about it. The share prices and the value the future value, trust me, will reflect in the share prices at some point. The markets typically always end up balancing themselves out. While, just a reminder for all of you, Wheat Street 420 in-court arguments for the lawsuit challenging federal prohibition will be held next week on May 22nd at 10:30 a.m. David Boyce has racked up victory after victory defending IBM, CBS, Apple vs. Samsung, and more. Here's some of his past success and examples of court cases he's taken on. And so while this is from May 14th, just wanted to share it to remind you all that there's still a lot of exciting catalysts to look forward to. And we've got a bit more of a timeline as more dominoes have fallen. So give yourselves a pat on the back. Be happy. Enjoy yourself this weekend. And that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And I really hope you got some value out of this episode. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos. And I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.